All right, everyone, this is Chris Patterson with CoachPattFitnessAZ and Impact Training and Fitness. And I'm here with my friend Jake, and today we're going to cover how to do a back squat or a barbell back squat or a barbell back squat parallel squat. People kind of give this exercise all kinds of names. It's just a squat. Okay, so again, like many movements, like our power clean, like our bench press, like our front squat, like a deadlift, squats are kind of the essential lower body movement for any program, whether you're working on strength, hypertrophy, athletic performance. Squats tend to be one of those essential movements, and there's a lot of different variations of squats. You know, you may have seen the front squat video that we did. We're going to do some goblet squat videos, all different kinds of variations of squats, but a squatting movement really should be in that lower body portion of your workout. The first thing that Jake is going to do, one of the things that I always coach people on with a squat is wherever their feet naturally lay. So if they walk with their feet out a little bit, that's really okay with the squat. I want their hips and their feet to feel natural when they're doing this motion, especially since with a squat we tend to get pretty heavy. Jake is going to get underneath the bar, right? We're going to let that bar rest along the top of the traps. Some people would call this a high bar squat. As opposed to a low bar squat. We'll go over low bar squat in a different video. Okay, so Jake is going to get into what I call power position, right? His feet are going to be kind of in line, maybe just outside of his hips. And with our squat, as you notice here, a lot of people have a tendency to drive their elbows up or let their elbows flare up. And what I want Jake to do, and he's already doing it really, is I want you to drive your elbows down as we get into the squat position. This is going to force our shoulder blades to retract and adduct, and it's going to force our chest out, which is going to help us keep our spine nice and straight, so we don't get a rounded back and we have potential for some back injury at a squat, right? When we lift, we're lifting for injury prevention, not injury creation, okay? So Jake is letting this bar rest across the top of his traps as a high bar squat. The other thing that I see a lot with especially young squatters is they have a tendency to look up. People coach them to look up, so look up at the ceiling. I don't want to do this either because it puts an unnatural curvature in my spine. I want my spine perfectly straight. So I normally teach people or tell people or coach people, just pick a spot on the wall and just keep your eyes on that spot, right? I certainly don't want to look down, but I don't want to look up either. I just want my spine nice and straight. All right, so the first essential with my squat is what we call the hip hinge. And a lot of people, when they get into the gym and they squat and they've never been coached on squat, they have a tendency to do a very knee-dominant squat, and that's where their knees drive forward over their toes. Now, there's not necessarily anything wrong with relatively low loads or light weight with driving the knees over the toes. In fact, that can help strengthen some soft tissue tendons and ligaments in there. But, you know, when we start loading this up, and Jake has squatted 500 pounds before, and so we definitely don't want to drive our knees over our toes with that kind of load on our back. So what we want to do is we want to hip hinge, and one of the things I always teach my athletes is I want to pretend like I'm sitting on a chair, right? How would I sit on a chair? So we're going to drive our butt backwards, okay? As you see there, he's poking his butt out, right? So let's just do that hip hinge a couple times. You can see him just poking his butt out, right? Loading his hips up, poking that butt out. When my athletes have a hard time imagining that, I just ask them, how do you sit down on the toilet in the morning, right? You normally sit backwards, and that's what we want to do. So Jake is going to poke that butt out. He's going to hip hinge, and now he's going to drop into a squat. There's always this nice debate on how low should we go. There's a lot more scientific and sports medicine evidence that going parallel or just below is perfectly safe and, in fact, safer than going just above parallel. Just above parallel seems to put a lot of load on that soft tissue in the knee and doesn't allow some of the agonist muscles to kick in and really, like your hamstrings to kick in and prevent knee injury. So I always coach my athletes that we need to be at least going parallel, if not a little lower. So Jake's going to go ahead and hip hinge again, drop into that squat. You can see he's definitely a little lower than parallel. When I say parallel, I mean hip to knee ratio. Jake's got big legs, so if we were just going off of his quads, it may not look like he's parallel, but he really is. Or athletic parallel, that's at least my hamstrings parallel to the ground. And again, some people have some mobility issues, so we also have to work within someone's mobility issues. So I'm going to have Jake go ahead and hip hinge one more time, drop into that squat, and come back up. Good. The other thing you might notice when he squats is his shins are fairly perpendicular to the ground, not perfectly, but again, that is because he's hip hinging and he doesn't have a knee dominant squat. His knees aren't driving over his toes. So the last thing that I'm going to mention with squats, and this is more for hypertrophy or muscular growth, and that is eccentric movement is always a great thing that we can incorporate into our squat that will really help especially our quads and our glutes grow. So what I'm going to have Jake do one more time, he's going to squat, but this time he's going to take about a 4 to 5 second eccentric as he drops into his squat. That's the eccentric motion. He goes down nice and slow. As soon as he hits that squat, he's going to fire back up. And, if your goal here is hypertrophy or to get bigger, what a great thing to incorporate into your movement. You can go ahead and rack that, Jake. Great thing to incorporate into your squats. We know that eccentric motion cause muscle growth and hypertrophy. Obviously, you're not going to be able to do as heavy as loads as you would if you were just doing a purely concentric squat. So anyways, I hope this helps. Good luck programming this for yourself or for your athletes. And until next time,